shortly after brief talks with President Obama. Hopefully we'll bring you live coverage of that meeting a little later as they address the media, but in the meantime, Artie's Khan has more from our Washington bureau.
The meeting took place behind closed doors, and there have been no statements afterwards, so there is no way of knowing what they're actually discussing. It could be the weather, but they are definitely more pressing issues, and one of the most irritating ones in the relations between the two countries is America's missile defense plans in Europe. President Obama has scrapped the Bush administration missile defense plans, but they're going ahead with a new one. Foreign Minister Lavrov said Russia needs firm, legally binding guarantees that the project will not threaten Russia's security. Washington has made reassuring statements before, but Moscow needs to have it on paper. Some analysts explain this urge that Russia has for getting everything on paper with promises in the past that were not fulfilled. For example, when the Soviet Union collapsed, Russia was assured that NATO would not be expanding towards its borders, but it did. It continued recruiting new members. So there is an understanding among the Russians that words are good, but words in a legally binding document are better. On international issues, there are certain disagreements, and they are being discussed. With regards to Libya, for example, Foreign Minister Lavrov said Colonel Gaddafi must step down and there's no place for him in the future of Libya. And that's exactly a view shared by the Obama administration as well. But Russia criticizes the scope of the foreign intervention in Libya. Moscow sees the actions of the allied forces there as violation of the UN mandate. Minister Lavrov said the resolution is being wrongly interpreted as anyone can do whatever they want. What Moscow sees is the West now clearly taking sides in a civil war and extending the conflict. Talking about Syria, Foreign Minister Lavrov said the attitude of the West is exclusively about exerting pressure on one of the parties, namely the Syrian government and President Assad, and Moscow sees it as the wrong attitude. He said it sends the wrong message to the Syrian opposition, prompting them to believe that if they remain insistent and the situation keeps getting critical, then the West will come to help them the way it is happening in Libya. Minister Lavrov said it is unacceptable that the opposition should resort to violence, agitating peaceful protesters into engaging in armed clashes and effectively turning them into targets for the police and security forces. So those are different approaches, as you can see, and they are being discussed here.
Russia's foreign minister and the U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton are about to speak to the media following talks there in Washington, and we're now going to go live to listen in and hear what they have to say.
To provoke fear and division. Those who perpetrated them must know they cannot succeed. The Indian people have suffered from acts of terrorism before, and we have seen them respond with courage and resilience. We are continuing to monitor the situation, including the safety and security of American citizens. Our hearts are with the victims and their families, and we have reached out to the Indian government to express our condolence and offer support. I will be traveling to India next week as planned. I believe it is more important than ever that we stand with India, deepen our partnership, and reaffirm our commitment to the shared struggle against terrorism. Neither of our countries, the Russian Federation or the United States, unfortunately are strangers to terrorism. And it has been a mutual goal of both of our presidents to increase our cooperation in order to prevent terrorists from wreaking their violence on innocent Russians, Americans, and others, and to bring those who do so to justice. I also would like to convey condolences on behalf of the American people to those who suffered from the tragic sinking of the boat on the Volga River. I am particularly, as a mother, extending my thoughts and prayers to all those mothers and fathers who are suffering the terrible loss of children. Let me begin by saying that the past 2.5 years has been a time of great strides in the relationship between our countries. We have signed a historic arms control treaty and opened a vital new land and air supply route to Afghanistan. We are cooperating on addressing Iran's nuclear threat, working to coordinate our diplomatic approach to Libya, consulting closely on the changes unfolding in the Middle East. Across the world, we are not only working bilaterally but multilaterally on so many important issues from counterterrorism to nonproliferation. Our challenge now is to continue and maintain the momentum in order to deliver more results for both of our people. To that end, Minister Lavrov and I discussed missile defense cooperation. I believe we do have an opportunity to address common challenges in a way that makes Russians, Europeans, and Americans safer. And we are committed to working with both Russia and our NATO allies to do so. We also, of course, discussed the broader range of issues on which we are cooperating beyond security and arms control. For example, we strongly support Russia's accession to the World Trade Organization. Russia's membership would allow us to increase trade and deepen our economic ties. This is a high priority and a priority for President Obama and the administration. It's part of our broader global effort to promote a rules-based system of economic competition. We also discuss the increasing emphasis within Russia on democracy. And we obviously, as I have said many times, as our two presidents have discussed, support the rights of Russian civil society to assemble and speak freely, of Russian journalists and bloggers to monitor and report on official actions, and of lawyers and judges to work independently to uphold the rule of law. I'm especially pleased that we were able to reach several new agreements. First, we are signing an agreement on inter-country adoptions. We take very seriously the safety and security of children that are adopted by American parents, and this agreement provides new important safeguards to protect them. It also increases transparency for all parties involved in the adoption process. And I want to thank Senator Mary Landrieu, the leader of the Adoption Caucus in the Senate, as well as Congresswoman Karen Bass, who are present with us. Second, our negotiators have now concluded a visa agreement. We think this is especially important for our businesses so that businessmen and women can travel multiple times between our two countries over 36 months on a single visa. This is a big deal for those who are doing business, and we are laying the groundwork for even more trade and travel. Third, we exchanged diplomatic notes on the U.S. Plutonium Management and Disposition Agreement. This brings into force a protocol that Sergei and I signed last year that commits both of our countries to dispose of no less than 34 metric tons of weapons-grade uranium on each side, the equivalent of some 17,000 nuclear weapons. And fourth, we are renewing the protocol on the effects of radiation, which allows our scientists to collect and analyze epidemiological data together with the cancer risks that come with exposure to radiation. Fifth, our national aviation agencies today signed an air navigation services agreement that will increase air traffic control cooperation, enhance information sharing, and ultimately make even more air traffic between our countries even safer. This relationship then now involves cooperation in many different areas. And the bilateral presidential commission that Presidents Obama and Medvedev began, that Minister Lavrov and I have the honor of co-chairing, has emerged as an important vehicle for pursuing our common interests. And we are very committed to continuing to move our relationship forward. And again, I thank the Minister for the excellent work that we have done together.
Уважаемые дамы и господа, прежде всего хочу полностью присоединиться.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to say that I fully support the words of Hillary Clinton about the shelling in Mumbai. We condemn the people who organized this act, and we extend our condolences to India and the government of India. Counterterrorism has a special place in our cooperation with the United States, and we will be building up this cooperation everywhere, including Afghanistan, Middle and Far East, and other regions in the world. Also, I would like to express my gratitude for the condolences that Madam Clinton has just pronounced about the tragic shipwreck on the Volga River. We appreciate these feelings of the American people towards us, and we are grateful for the warm reception to me and my delegation in the framework of this official visit. This was a very useful visit and very busy visit. I met Mr. Obama in the White House, and I had negotiations with the State of the Secretary. Yesterday I had a meeting with the Senate of the United States of America, and yesterday I also met Russian Americans who have a lot of interesting projects that aim to promote closer cooperation of our countries, and also went to the broadcaster who is a Russian broadcaster, Voice of America, and they are starting broadcasting in English in Washington. So we thank you very much for all the cooperation. And speaking about our talks, I fully agree with the assessment of Presidential Commission. This was a very effective tool created by the two presidents. It's being coordinated by the State Department and the Foreign Ministry. There are 18 working groups who are working to the fullest extent in cooperation and cooperating, and they have created two additional groups, one for innovation, which is very important for the positive agenda in our cooperation, and the second one is for legal issues, which is also very important in our bilateral dialogue. We have considered the current priority issues in our relationship, including the situation with, I hope that we will be concluding the process of Russia's accession to the WTO. And just recently here in Washington, Minister of Economy of Russia, Elvira Nabiullina, was here, and during her meeting with President Obama today in the White House, we have fully agreed on the necessity to conclude all the necessary formalities. We have all the opportunities to do so, and as far as I understood today, there is the political will from the United States, and now experts must be working, and they must use the political impulse and translate it into practical agreements on paper. We have paid a lot of attention to strategic stability, and we see that the agreement is being followed closely, is being executed, and the mechanism is functioning quite effectively. This is a bilateral consultative committee which has made a number of practical steps that are being stipulated by the agreement, and we also discussed the importance of mutually acceptable solutions on missile defense. We have noted that President Obama has confirmed his readiness to reach understanding, together with Mr. Medvedev, to reach understanding of common policy and creating a strong political framework that would let us to start practical cooperation in this important sphere. And I would like to also highlight the fact that today we have signed a number of very important agreements. First of all, I would like to note the agreement on adoption issues. Our negotiating teams have been working very effectively. This was the Russian Foreign Ministry, Ministry of Education and Science, and Ombudsman for the Rights of Children, Mr. Astahov, who is today present here. And I think that we will be going towards implementing this agreement, and this will help us get rid of the irritants that have been emerging quite rightfully in the public opinion connected to the destiny of Russian children who were adopted in America. We are very grateful to our American partners for helping us to reach this agreement, and there are two another agreements that we have signed and prolonged. They have very long names, but they are all about very simple and necessary for everyone, every person, things. Those are lowering, minimizing of risks that are connected with radioactive contamination on health and environment. And the second thing, the second agreement concerns plutonium. It is a very real contribution to non-proliferation regime and enhancing nuclear security. As Secretary has just said, we have completed our work on visa regime. It will be formalized very soon. Everything is ready, everything has been agreed, and I may say even that this will open the way to developing our dialogue towards visa-free regime. This aim had been mentioned during Vice President Biden visits to Moscow, and although 2 years ago probably this idea would have been deemed impossible, today we see that we have all the opportunities to have this kind of aim in our cooperation with the United States, which is being discussed by the European Union today, and about 100 states all over the world have visa-free regime with Russia, including Israel, and this is the precedent. So, concerning bilateral issues, we have made an important stride today towards exercising all those agreements and instructions by the presidents made at their recent meetings about adoption and visa simplifications. The international part of our discussion concerned not only some specific questions, but systematic problems of the new situation in the international relations, the problems that emerge in different regions and that are very much connected with the discussion of the way we can use the democratization and rule of law principles to our policies. And I believe it was a very useful conversation about what role of the United Nations has in these processes. The United States and Russia have confirmed that as permanent members of the Security Council, we are very much interested in promoting peace and security globally. We have discussed many other topics, for example, as the situation of the Iranian nuclear threat and Korean Peninsula. This is very important for non-proliferation regime, and this will help us avoid other conflicts. And we also talked about Libya and situation in other Eastern and African countries, about the situation in Afghanistan. We have been cooperating very closely in various areas. And in the light of Quartet's meeting yesterday in Washington, which was very useful, and it helped our experts to prepare specific documents. We have also discussed the topic of conventional arms in Europe. We are very much interested in finding a mutually accepted framework to reach an agreement on the new control of conventional arms in this very important region, which is crucial for Russia and the United States. And I would like to note that we had a very useful we also talked about our cooperation in Arctic and Antarctic, which is also very important. Also, we identified that there is a possibility to bring our positions closer in the issues where we still have some misunderstandings, like bilateral cooperation and international agenda. And in comparison to previous years, we see these problems as workable, and we understand that in some spheres we do not have converging interests, but we promote same aims, and we maintain dialogue about how to most effectively move to those aims. And in the end, I would like to say about one symbolic thing. It is 13th of July today, and in 1728, this day, the first expedition of Vitus Bering to Kamchatka started, which proved that Eurasia and America are divided by a gulf. And these days, a group of Americans and Russians are going through the Bering Gulf in commemoration of this historic date. And the day after tomorrow, on the 15th of July, we will mark another memorable day. It's 270 years since the second St. Paul ship crew headed to Kamchatka, led by Alexei Chirikov. And we talked about Alaska a lot today, and we have a principled solution of presidents about the necessity to develop cooperation in our trips through Bering Gulf, and we spoke about specific projects and events that might be organized that would be very much interesting for people who live in Alaska and Chukotka. And we discussed this today. And also, I think this means that we have a new quality to our cooperations. We not only think about strategic things, we also care about our citizens. And I think that this is a lesson for us, the lesson for our cooperation for many years ahead.
We have 2 questions on the American side.